Hi, Mr. Shelton here. Sorry, this is coming in a few days late, but here is your demo on figure drawing. We're not going to get into. Let me turn this down a little. I like to have some background music. We're not going to get into super detail. This is just basically the proportions and structure. And again, this is meant to review what we learned in class, not to replace it. So this time, I'm going to use Roger Moore, another James Bond actor, because I grabbed what I have. Now, if we were doing this in a non-virus year, I would have this, my pad would be on an easel, and I'd have my model staying on a table back there, and we all would in the class. So let's pretend he's modeling back there, and he's a real human being, and this is my easel. Because whenever you can, you want to use real human beings. And let's pretend we see his foot, even though we don't. A lot of pretending this time. Like I said, this is review. So first thing we want to do, we want to make sure he sits on the page nicely. You would use your H pencil like this, but because I want you to see me, I'm stepping up, and I'm going to start with my 2B, which you would not do. Okay, so I'm going to say right there is the head, so I can't go any further than that. I'm going to ignore Lois Childs playing Dr. Holly. Good head here. And the feet, let's say here. So now, no matter what happens, he's not going to be going off the page, and he's not going to be small floating in the paper. I've set my turf. This is it. Now, this is kind of a boring place to put him, but we're not making a composition now. We're trying to learn the skill of figure drawing. So again, let's go back and look at him. So I look at this. Where do I start? Well, it's important to have something that starts your proportion. So I'm going to start with the head. How many heads? If we say his foot, let's say his foot ends right there where it says artist release. How many heads does that take? Let's take it. Now again, I'm touching the paper, which you needn't do. You want to pretend, like, let's pretend he's standing up and I'm just doing this as a distance. Always lock your arm, your elbow, and your wrist. Keep everything steady when you check proportions. You don't want to change and don't move. So I'm not bending I don't know if you can see, I'm not bending my arm. I'm keeping everything straight. I'm going to measure his head. How many heads make a body? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a little over 5. So this actually helps having it flat, because sometimes when they have dimension, we tend to bend with the knee and bend with the waist. But no, you want to keep it like there's a glass wall in front of them. So I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe a quarter. So let me estimate that. So I'm going to start and put his head this big. And don't do a circle, right? It's either an oval this time or a rectangle, something like that, okay? And let's see, now I'm going to just have to adjust till I get it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit. Yeah, that's good enough. That's close enough. So I've got the head in the right place. There's a little bit of a tilt to the head. You see that angle? So I'm going to make sure I have that slight tilt on mine right here, like that, okay? Now, next thing I'm going to do is find the shoulders. So, well, let me find it. You want to find a midpoint. So for most people, it's a waist of some kind. Now, this is dark. I should have thought of this. I can't really see a waist. Find the bottom of the shirt, or in some cases, it would be, well, I don't know, the bottom of a hem of a dress. It doesn't have to be in the exact center, just something that gives you something to work with. So let's say for him, you guys can't really see it, but I see his jacket going to about there, the belt to about there. So I'm going to say that's the midpoint, not necessarily the exact middle, but something I can kind of use to gauge where I am. So let me put down a piece of tape or something to hold that area there. I'm coming back in a minute. Don't get crazy. Now, this is a glossy photograph from a press kit from 1979's Moonraker, and I hope I don't mess up my friend's glossy photo by putting tape in it, but I want to give Roger a belt. So let's pretend that's a belt there. Okay, and let's say the top of that belt we're using as our midpoint. It could be a shirt tucked in, just something that we can kind of focus on. So we're talking about the top of the belt. So, and again, I would hold it up, keep my arm steady, and I would use my pencil to measure if he was a model standing there. So I'm going to go head to here. And you're going to keep your hand steady if it's a live person. Here, I want to get that to stay in one place. Okay, so top of head to belt, and we're going top of belt, is that much. So I keep it steady. That is top of his head to the belt. Now I go top of the belt to the shoe. My hand was here, so it's a little longer. I have to extend about that far to make it even. So what does that tell me? It tells me that I have to come up a little bit to about here. I don't want to use the ebony. This is a 2B I'm using. You should be using a H. Okay, so that takes me to about where the belt to about where the belt was halfway. So halfway between, this is still the bottom of the foot down here, but halfway between here and here, because I'm adjusting for where the belt was, halfway between that, if I can find that, is that. So what I did again, I just figured out where I wanted to have a belt set at the top here. I measured that, then I measured down here. It took me here. So that means between that and that, I know halfway is the belt. Then I just have to add this little chunk here. Everybody get that? So this belt could have been lower. That means I have to lower the belt. If the belt's higher than halfway, I have to put it higher than halfway like it is. Does everybody see what I did? If you don't get it, then come visit me during office hours or send me an email. All right. So let me see. Where are we here? I'm gonna have to move this in a little. I'm gonna get that arm on there. Oh, I hate having to do that. I hate these shadows, but this is what we have to work with these days. Sorry, guys. Actually, I'll turn on a light and make it easier. And I think turning on that light makes zero difference for you guys. Okay, so now, okay. Let me feel the shoulders next. So if you look at him, his shoulder starts, well, her arm's there, right at this collar here. It looks like his neck would be around there, and I'm just going to do this kind of quickly. Don't overdo it, and it looks like his shoulder sits there. Don't do that thing where you draw a neck, pop the head on top, and the shoulders like this, like, 3 different things, head, neck, shoulders. Usually, the head, neck, and shoulders all intertwine. Not always, so kind of catch that. And now we're going to figure out how wide his shoulders are. So I'm looking, it's from here to here. That is the length of his shoulders, right? And he's got a little bit of a turn here. So I'm going to take the length of that head. See, length of the head is this wide, right? And how many shoulders does that make? How many heads make a shoulder? 1, a little under 2. Okay, so this one's coming at us. That changes a little bit. He's 2 across. So I take his head is this long, right? We said 2 heads make the shoulders. So I'm going to go to where I split the head in half. And this is where the shoulders are. Start at that center, boom, 1 head length. So this way, 1 head length, boom. That's where his shoulders are. You guys see how I got that, right? Just a little dot. Don't start connecting things. Now, using those shoulders, I can find just about everything else. So let's figure out where his ankle would be. So if I go from this shoulder straight down, the ankle pretty much, even with all that bending along the way, the ankle is pretty much under the shoulder, straight down. And we know we've got this little area here that was the halfway. So for the ankle, I'm just going to put a circle. Ankles are circles. No matter where they are or what they are, make it circles. Now we're going to look at this side. I take this straight down. Again, I kind of lucked out. Well, that's more the toe, so I have to go in for the ankle. So for this one, I go straight down. This one's higher up to here, right? This foot's significantly higher because it's stepping back, right? Everybody with me? And again, we move in now for the ankle because we looked at him. His is in a little bit here. So this ankle's about here. Don't worry about the toe. I'm just finding ankles. So what do I have so far? I have shoulders. I have ankles. I have the, not waist. Yeah, waist. Necessarily the waist, okay? I know his toe's a little lower than that. Doing okay. Hope you're staying with me now. Now, so what can we do next? Well, we can find the hands. Okay, let's find the hands. All right. Your hands are going to be easier because they're dropped down to the side. But so for most of you, with the poses you're getting, you would look down, and usually the hand ends up under the shoulder if they're standing with the hands at their side, like the examples. I'm going to go more difficult. And then remember, the things with the hands, are they too high, too low, too big, too small, right? All that kind of stuff. So let's look at this. Shoulder width is this much. Shoulder to hand, a little bit less than that, but not that much less. So here, to hand. So let's come back a little bit, a little less, about here. Okay, just a little less. Now, this way comes down to about there. I don't really have to get that perfect. I can pretty much eyeball that. So here we go. So now we know that this hand is about here. Now, how big is the hand? Kids tend to make hands very small, but let's look at the width of that hand and turn it this way. It goes all the way from the chin to the top of Roger's brow. Look at that. Don't give him a small, tiny hand. So I figure the brow end's about there. That's how wide his hand is. It is big, right? It is not small. It's coming at us. So let's go ahead and draw that shape there. Just a rectangle. I'll even put that thumb out a little. See? Does everybody see how I got that hand? Let me move in a little. I measured compared to the body, where it was distance-wise up and down. Everybody got that? And now the elbow. About 1.5 hands worth down is the elbow to about here. The elbow comes in where the thumb is. So I'm going to draw a little circle for that elbow there. Everybody with me now? I've got this elbow, I've got the hand, I've got his shoulder. Everybody see how I'm doing this? I'm not connecting the dots. I'm not doing anything to connect the dots, right? Now let's go to this shoulder. Go straight down, you don't see anything. This hand, this next hand, if we go right down the face here, we see that the edge of the knuckles is right inside that, right? Widthwise, it lines up with the top of this hand, right? So we can just do that so we know the two hands line up together. Let's see. I mean, widthwise, it's about half the face. So let's make, because it's turned towards us and it's inside. So let's go ahead and draw that shape, half the face. Now, how is it lengthwise? It is the same as this one. So there we go. And we have the gun pointing at us. We don't need to see that at this point. Let's just draw this. And there's the hand coming at us. Everybody with me so far? Where is this elbow? Fortunately, this elbow is right under the shoulder. So we come down here. It's about 1 hand's worth below the gun. So we take that hand again, go down here about this far, that hand again, and that's where the elbow is. So you see what we're charting here. Hand, elbow, shoulder, hand, elbow, shoulder. Everybody with me now? I hope so. Okay, we got our waist. Next is the knees, This knee, if your knees in general are halfway between the waist and the ankle, even if they're bent. So we have our waist, we have his ankle, we have our ankle, we have our waist. So we know about halfway on this side, because this one's coming down like this. Let's see if it's halfway, because it's bent. That could make a difference. So we said his foot's down to where it says United Artist to here. That's the knee to ankle. Let's go up a little above the waist. So a little above halfway from here to here is that first knee. Just a little. So that's about halfway. I'm going to go up a little. This one, here's ankle to knee. Now this bent, so this one's significantly less on the top because it's bent. So if we go halfway, and then we went up significantly to about here. So now we know the knees this way. Where are they lengthwise? Well, this knee, just in a little bit from the shoulder. So this one comes into about there. Make it a nice big round knee. This knee lines up with the elbow. So there's always something to look at. So now, I know it's getting confusing, but we have ankles, we have knees, we have elbows, we have hands, we have shoulders, we have head, and we have a little bit of neck. Okay, so what is our next step? Well, your next step is double, triple, quadruple checking. You just don't assume this is right. I'm not going to spend the time, but you would go now and you're going to compare the arm to the knees, compare the chest to the leg. Just go back and forth and compare everything, and then double check it over here. Just keep moving around, check the knees, the head, how many heads make the arms, how many ankles. That's what proportion is. We're learning proportion. Now, another thing is we did ankles, toes of the shoe. This is important. Don't ask me why yet, you will see, but I always say ball for ankle, hamburger for toe. Something like a hamburger. Look how long that is. It's as long as his head. Just like hands. Kids tend to make dinky little hands and feet. They're not. So look, there's the toe, there's the ankle. Even if it's coming at me, let's imagine, it's probably going to be as wide as his head. Make a hamburger, even if it overlaps, we don't really see it. So I don't see it, so I have to make this up. But look, hamburger ankle, hamburger ankle. There's a reason I do this. Even if you don't see the hamburger part, draw it. There's a reason, because we want to keep in mind that this is in two sections and this is coming towards us. So this is your blocking in. Everybody get it? This is really as far as you have to go for blocking in your figure. So you don't feel stranded, I'll go next. So now, still using your light pencil, your H pencil, and again, I'm doing it darker so you can see. So I'm going to pull out a 4B actually, because I want you to see this a little. You should be using your H still. Let me get a drink of my water here. Where's my 4B? Okay, it's not that sharp, but let me sharpen it. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Okay. So now, just as usual, you've blocked it in, you've double checked your work. Now, we're worried about our contour lines. That's our next step. I'm gonna take away the belt, we don't need that. I think I drew on here, I'm gonna have to erase it. Maybe my friend will never notice what I did to his press kit photo. You really can't see the creases because it's dark and everything, but I'm gonna pretend a little. So what we do not do, we don't what? Everybody should know this now. We don't outline. We don't outline. We never outline. It's never a goal of this to outline. The goal is to let our contour lines kind of make us feel peaceful. So rather than, if you catch yourself doing this, going around it, that's not good. Instead, I'm gonna look at the creases on this jacket. And remember, I'm gonna erase a little. You shouldn't have to because you went light, but I went dark so you can see. So now I'm gonna start lightening this stuff because it really should be barely visible if you did it correctly. It should be barely visible, okay? Because this is all underwork here we're doing. Underwear. What's that under there? Underwear. You said underwear. Okay. So instead of outlining, what I'm doing is I'm loose. Look how loosely, and you're doing this with an H. I'm finding creases where I see them. I'm letting the creases tell the story. On this jacket, you see that? And what you remember about creases is that internal creases are as valid as our external creases. I shouldn't look at your final drawing and see an outline. I should see equal number of vanishing lines inside and outside. No, life is not outlined. My hand is not outlined. Light actually hits this. You wouldn't draw that line there. We're not shading this, so that's not what I'm talking about. Those of you who've been paying attention know that contour lines are the exterior and interior lines that define edges and surface ridges. Look, don't draw the fingers. At this distance, we don't see it. Just a little hint of a hand. You know, you don't have to be detailed on, well, you're just drawing a person standing. I'm doing Roger Moore with this gun. Okay, so I'm not gonna detail faces. I'm not gonna detail fingers because at this distance, we don't really see them. So it's just very loose. I wouldn't even draw those little lines I put in. And again, let the creases from the jacket tell the story. You don't have to outline everything. Let it breathe, let it be loose. Your eye is not gonna scream, oh my God, his hand's missing, if we have a missing line there. Your eye and your brain will finish it up for you, okay? So things like the jacket, I'm just gonna let my hand drape. Things coming towards you, remember. So here's where we get a little interesting. This knee's coming towards me, so rather than outline it, I'm gonna just remember my creases fall backwards. So I'm always thinking going backwards in that direction. And then we get here and the creases just kind of drape and fall, if you see. So I'm just gonna go. You should go much slower than me. I'm going much quicker than you are. And again, I don't see that knee, so I'm kind of making that up. So these are called, this is the face called light contour. So remember, number one, block in. Number two, double, triple check your proportions. Number three, work on your light contour. Light contour, interior and exterior lines, not shading. And remember, this, we're not going to detail the face at this distance, but we want to keep the hair loose. We don't want to make it look like a plastic cap put on. So I'm keeping it loose. I'm not defining the edges that much. I'm going to show a line for his brow. I'll show a line for maybe his nose, maybe the mouth, maybe. And I'm not going to get any more detailed than that on this face because this is a figure drawing, right? So everybody see what I'm doing? I've got his shoulder coming in there. Now, here's where I see people make my shoulders. They limit the shoulders here. Then they start building outwards, and they end up looking like some Goliath. No, if that's where your shoulders were, you work down from there. You work down and out. See, I'm letting the creases do the talking. And here's the hand. I'm not outlining him. I'm letting certain creases, lines, I'm letting it be very loose and alive. Very loose and alive. This hand here, if I have a straight line, maybe I just don't even finish the straight line because I want to keep it looking active and moving. As much as you can, rely on the creases. Exaggerate. Find an old jacket, hang it up, right? Should I put that bow tie in there, I guess, loosely? Again, very loose, everything. I'm going to go ahead and move that. You saw what it looks like and just kind of, I'm going quickly now. You guys should not go that quick. You should be neater. And this knee's a little hard because it's going backwards in this direction. So don't outline it. Just think about lines going back in that direction. And this line kind of drapes. Now we get to the shoes. I'm going to start putting them together. But again, I don't want to outline it so like it's one big peanut. I want to be very clear that this crease is here, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect yet. I don't know what the shoe looks like. I'm just guessing. Let's say this thing's. Okay, so that is, you do it a little neater than I do, but that is your next step. That is your light contour. That is your light contour, right? I hope you double check your proportions. Your last step, which is the one that takes the longest, that foot needs to come down a little. Don't ever be afraid to erase. That's not erase, sorry. We don't erase, just scratch over. Because that's why you're going lightly. You don't really need to erase unless you went too dark like I did. Because the whole idea is you're going light enough that all this sketching becomes background life. When you're on your final drawing, we still have all this there, but it's gonna fall to the background because you went light. Now, little by little, we start taking our 2B or 4B, and we start gently finding the darks. Remember, lines generally just aren't dark, and generally they'll go, let me erase a little and be a little neater here because you guys have been patient. Generally a line will go light, dark in the center, and then get light again, and then maybe another medium one near it, right? We're not shading, but there should be life to the line. It shouldn't be hard. It should end soft on both sides, and it should get darkest at its core, right? Your lines, your creases. So find those folds. Don't overdo it. Know when to let the light come in, know when to be graceful, know when to let it disappear. A little heavier there. So that's your next line, is working on your darks and lights till eventually you build up to the ebony pencil, and you're going to be here long enough, and your real darks at the core will be so dark. But we're not at that point yet. I'm kind of going quickly now, right? So you get that you're going to spend a couple hours on those darks and lights, but everybody gets a general idea. I think I made his head a little thick, and because I did not triple check like I told you guys to, I didn't realize that I should have ended it right there. Okay, everybody with me? So, and remember, this toe's coming at you, so it's going to be huge. It's going to be wider than the head, right? This toe needs to be wider than the head, okay? All right. I think that's it with the demo on how to find your proportions. This works with any figure. What we're going to do next week is the foreshortening. Like, how do we make these things? How do you make an arm coming towards you? How do you make a leg coming towards you, okay? And that'll be our last figure drawing, our last life drawing lesson. Then it's on to shading. All right, so if you have any questions, either shoot me an email or go through Schoology, or just come visit me during office hours, one or the other. Okay, that's it.